and we're live.
Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live. And of course, Colin with Project Constitution is hosting our broadcast today. And I know we're live across multiple platforms. And Colin is he's an amazing, I have to say, a young man. I know he's not young in one way, but for me, he is, because I'm way on up there in age. Not super old, but getting up there a little bit. So anyway, thank you, Colin, for having me on your program today, and very interesting broadcast, because when we did our last segment, we were talking about the infrared laser, possible designator, and again, clarifying, I don't think that the guy would have even known what he's doing, what he's being used for. And there's also some, from different spectrum analysis that I've done on this, it is a possibility that he was using what is called a white laser. That is very rare, but we got challenged on that, and it was by Gary with Paramount Tactical. And I know he didn't actually play the video. He didn't call us by name. I would have just assumed he did that, though. And Gary, though, he's a brilliant man. He's got a very good background, very good resume. He's a former U.S. Army Special Forces weapons sergeant and a sniper team leader with 4 combat tours. And he's worked full time the last 7 years as a unit chief for the Special Tactics instructor at federal agency, and as an owner and lead instructor for Paramount Tactical Solutions. So he does have a very impressive resume, a very impressive background. I have to admit, though, that to me, I felt a little bit taken back by it, because I remember watching him early on, and he immediately went with the narrative of the 30-06 being shot by Tyler Robinson, and just followed mainstream narrative. But that doesn't surprise me, even though and believe me, when I listened to Gary the first time around, Colin, I did take him very seriously. I knew his credentials, I knew his background, but you got to keep in mind, he is working with a federal agency. Doesn't list, at least online, I don't see which federal agency that is, whether it's the FBI or whatever. But if he's working with any kind of federal agency, this man's got to stay with mainstream narrative, and he's got to promote that mainstream narrative, and he's got to make his view on this fit what their ideology is. Nevertheless, and I remember him making the argument about they had the different audios that other people don't have. I really sincerely, Colin, I listened to him, and I took his words into account. Okay, maybe you're right, because I already knew about this. I know there's suppression, sound suppressions on phones for noise. If it gets too loud, the phone will suppress the sound. I realize that there are cameras that are doing audio footage out there that don't suppress as much, that the FBI had probably access to. But at the same token, as I'm watching this, I realize that there's a couple of factors that I didn't agree with. And, the way Charlie, his movement, he based this on the different analysis, which really kind of follows in with the FBI. When you show from the backside the protruding of the shirt, but yet I already know that if this man is shot from the side of the neck or the head, whichever the case may be, and it comes out like that, that creates a velocity. It causes a cavity. It's a combustion going on inside of his body. And as that goes back down and the bullet exits out, it creates a tremendous vacuum pressure, a pressure vacuum that comes out. And a lightweight shirt especially, it would suck that, along with his contraction of his muscles, would suck that up just like he did, and that shirt go flat against his chest. And notice only one side pushes out. There's no exiting wound, so there's no other reason for that to be that way. You can't say that it's because he flies back. If that's the case, why is it only on one side of his shirt, Colin? I mean, please weigh in on this a little bit before we get diving into some of these thoughts that he had.
No, I agree with you. You're a little bit friendlier than I would be.
So, well, I get it. I mean, like I said, he is trained. Myself, I'm not a sniper. I was a distinguished master of arms, which means using small weapons is what I was trained to use. I worked with the CIA for 7 years. I worked with the man that actually did this work, and I'm sure he as well. He was a sniper. He did 4 tours, no doubt in Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm not really sure which one. But I was there. I've seen it. I know what happens. Of course, you don't witness every single person that is shot, but I've seen enough of them shot myself. Of course, in wartime, it's much different. He would see it more frequently than what I would. But too, though, I also know when you're doing assassinations, and it's not the lone gunman theory, like Charlie Robinson, which, I get what he would say if he has the capability of doing it, if he hunts or whatever. But according to his grandmother, the young man doesn't hunt, doesn't own a gun.
Exactly.
So you got to take that into consideration. How are you going to resolve that problem? I think Gary said that it was a 140-yard shot, not a 200-yard shot. And keeping in mind, although Charlie is fairly centrally still as far as from a front point of view, I mean, I don't understand how Gary can believe that a 30-06 puts a hole in the front of his neck as big as what he had. You can slow down the footage, that we do have, and we have a lot of footage that we've looked at, whether it's 30 feet per second or 60 feet per second. We've looked at this over and over and over. You can clearly see what appears to be a possible bullet hole in the side of his neck. Again, it's not a high enough resolution to make that 100% certain. But clearly, though, when the wound is coming out, there is 1 millisecond of a frame. You can see that wound press out just barely underneath the shirt as the shirt is blowing out at the same time, which is consistent with that high velocity vacuum. But I think, Colin, what he challenged mostly on was the possibility of a designator. Now, I've actually used the word infrared laser quite a bit because as I've done spectrum analysis on the lighting and stuff in Frank's phone, which was very difficult because it's still a secondary device picking it up. Then you found, Colin, a laser from a van, or at least a light source from a van. And the spectrum analysis on that light itself was more consistent with what is called a white laser. Very, very rare device. White lasers are not easy to be made. That would be more military grade type technology. It's not even very used as often as what you would think, but it can be used in a situation like this to where the designator can see it very faintly, and it could be used in a public setting, but not raising alarms for other people. Oh, there's a laser on somebody. But a designated spotter, in this case here, in a crowded area, of course, and again, as I've said a million times over already, I don't believe the guy that used it, if indeed, and I will say this, it still could be that the guy that Charlie was shot, and this laser thing or whatever he was using had nothing to do with anything. It could have just simply been that he was targeted from his right side. But the sound signature and the wavelengths and stuff that we've looked at in the different photos and the movement of his clothes and the time of the shot, things like that, consistently show the shot comes from the right, not from the front and not from the left. It comes from his right side.
Not only that, but Charlie himself. I mean, when you look at Charlie, even his movements, when he goes up, and then to his left. He goes up and to his left. which is consistent with being shot from the right side, because your momentum, if you're shot in your right side, the momentum would carry you in the direction of the shot.
Exactly. And I know that Gary would probably argue you can shoot somebody from the front or from the back, and they may fall different directions depending on different issues. I get that. But I also know, too, when you're using high caliber rounds, 308 was one of the ones that I used in life. And that'll just about, especially depending on the type of round that you use, one of the ones that I used was a silver tip type round, and it would literally cause somersault of the victim that gets hit by it. It's just the way the velocity of that round was designed. And but normally, regardless of which way it is, whatever direction they get hit from, they're going that direction that they're hit. They don't go to the right, they don't go to the left. If I targeted it from one side there, that's the way it goes. It's going over that direction, or does a somersault. Now that's in hunting type of experiences. You're talking about a four-legged creature, not a two-legged man sitting in a chair. But still, it seems to be more plausible that he would have went backwards in the chair from the impact of a front wound. And also so many, I mean, we've had Navy SEALs that have testified that there is no way possible that shot from a 30-06 would have stopped inside of Charlie's neck. If it would have hit him right here in the front of the neck, it went clean through. No, his spinal cord is not going to stop a 30-06 round. It just isn't. And one thing that came to my mind, Colin, that I totally forgot about this, and out of nowhere, I remembered my grandfather talking about World War II. And he had said to me that his task, he said, most people I killed, I didn't see the actual round hit them, I only saw the aftermath. And he said that kind of made it easier on him. He said that only saw the aftermath. And I remember as a kid, I was like, maybe about 14, 15 years old when he was telling me this. And I said, Granddaddy, I said, I don't get, what do you mean you didn't have to see them? He said, I was tasked to shoot through walls to kill people. And I was using a 30-06. A 30-06. He'd shoot through the concrete wall and kill the subject behind the wall. So, imagine that. And I don't even know if they even had infrared technology in those days. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But the point is that he would be the guy that would spot to know, okay, we got a guy, he's hiding behind the wall. He had the 30-06 and he'd fire the round, and that guy would flop down on the ground. So, it's if it can go through all that concrete wall and everything and still kill the target in behind it, a little skinny neck. And I don't say Charlie had a skinny neck, but it still doesn't matter what kind of neck he had. It's not going to stop a 30-06 round. It just isn't going to happen.
Some of the ballistic guys, when they did their test, they also used a thick steel sheet of aluminum. I mean, not aluminum, of steel. And a 30-06 went through the sheet of steel as well. I mean, so if you think Charlie's neck is going to stop that, I mean, there's no way. And then on top of that, how would Gary, another thing that Gary's not taken into account, the thing that we originally thought was a muzzle flash up in the window there in that corner, it turns out it's not. We think it might be a pressure, I think it's like a pressure cone or something. It's what, I forget the exact terminology. I was looking for it just now, but I can't find my old live. I apologize for that. But it's like it's a pressure cone or something from the bullet, where it goes from supersonic down to subsonic. And what you're actually seeing is you're not seeing the muzzle flash, but you're seeing the actual, as the pressure wave around the bullet as that happens.
Well, that would
explain that.
Right. That would be consistent too, Colin, with the theory that I have that it could have been a drone itself. And now Gary, yes, he made light of that, saying that, the drone, do you realize how big the drone's got to be in order to be able to carry a weapon, a high-powered rifle like that to shoot and stuff like that? All right, let's get rid of the idea of the high-powered rifle. Let's first start with that. Get rid of that idea. Gaza, Ukraine, the Russians, the Ukrainians, Israelis, all are using small drones capable of firing all sorts of small weapons. And I'm going to show you some of these. And these weapons can be tasked with infrared or even white laser trackers. Now, I'm sure Gary already knows because he talked about having it in his own shop, infrared lasers. Using an infrared laser or a white laser in this case here is not totally out of the question, but it is military type of technology. It's not something that people normally get off the street. And I do not believe that this is an off the street operation. As Candace Owens brought out not too long ago, there were 12 Israeli cell phone signals at Utah Valley University that day. Could some of them be students? Sure they could. But could it be? Very much so could. There's all kinds of things that it could be. I get that, right? But let me just share, Colin, real quick. I'll share, let's see here, just so people can get a little bit of an idea of some of the type technologies that we have out there. Let me see which one is going to be the best
and
source.
That further supports our theory as well of it being Israel involved. Because they that kind of technology is only available in military hands and government hands.
Exactly. If you can share that onto the screen there for us, Colin, there. This is a Ukrainian drone. Now, notice the size of the thing, how small it is. This is not a big drone. And oddly enough, what you see on there, which is smaller than the drone itself, is a 12-gauge double-barrel shotgun that can be remotely fired from that drone. That drone is also equipped. Let me just see what we have here. Using shotguns to shoot down drones isn't new, but mounting 6-barrel recoil shotgun on a drone to hunt other drones, that's a different story. That's 3D Ukrainian drone manufacturers doing just that. Now they're targeting other drones, but anyone that has followed the Gaza war, for example, though, the Gaza war is loaded with the drone technology that is being used in Gaza to actually be able to sniper and kill people with drones. Now, of course, in Gaza, they're not going to be using designated spotters. I get that. A designated spotter is specifically used in the case of an area where there is a lot of human beings in the makings there. So let's pull that one down off the screen there, and I'll share another one here for you. Let's see here.
While you're looking for that, I have this one here too. This isn't Israeli or Ukrainian, but this is Chinese. This is a Chinese mini drone I found here. And this has I don't know, it didn't say, let me see if it says. Chinese drone with a hand. No, it doesn't say what caliber, but that clearly, that's a small drone and it has a handgun on it. Looks maybe like a 45, I'd say.
It's crazy is what it is. And notice, though, it's a semi-automatic weapon attached to the drone. And at one time, I thought I was hearing mechanical sound when I was listening to it. But it may be exactly what you were expressing, Colin. That was the other thing I was going to suggest as well. When you said that flash was the cone or the bullet breaking the sound barrier. When I was doing a sound analysis from 3 phones, one to the right of Charlie, one in front of him, and one to the left, they were all spaced about the same distance. Because one thing I was noticing was that I could almost visibly tell there was a difference, very minute, but a difference in the movement of Charlie's clothes when he got hit or his body when it moved compared to that of when the sound signature. And I did hear the 2 distinct sounds. You had one, and a couple of milliseconds later, the second sound signature of like the shot itself. Well, when I ran this through sound analysis, it was suggested that the first sound was the bullet itself breaking the sound barrier, or whatever you call it. I think you said the word about it right a minute ago, Colin.
It's like a pressure cone or something. That's not the exact term. I forget what Gideon said it is, but
Right.
it's
But
close
it's
to
the
that.
bullet causes, not only that though, but it causes that pop noise on its own because it is breaking the sound barrier. Sound is 1,125 feet a second. A bullet traveling even like a 9 millimeter, a regular 9 millimeter normally travels at 1150 feet a second, just above the sound barrier. A plus P, Israelis make a 9 millimeter that travels at 1350 feet a second there, and it's a 9 millimeter, but it's a very high velocity, causes massive, massive damage when it hits the victim. Very similar to that of shooting someone with a small caliber rifle, like a 223 or something. That's the type of impact and velocity that it has. But in this case here, as I did the sound spectrum analysis, I noticed that to his right and directly in front of him, the sound signature and the movement of him being hit were so close together, it was barely detectable a difference, like 1 nanosecond different. But when you get to the opposite side, to Charlie's more of his left side there, that person there was actually, I was able to determine the distance they were from Charlie, and it was determined to be 36 feet from him. And there was literally, I think it was 2 nanoseconds different than the side on the right side of the closed. When I say this, it's the closed gap of the sound signature. In other words, the sound barrier and the actual pop that you would hear that would hit the phone as well, right? And so what happened, it'd be like this here. On Charlie's right, those two pops were very close together on the scale when you were looking at the scale. When you got the one in front of him, a little bit bigger, but not much. When you got to that opposite side, it was much bigger and clearly, and you could distinctly hear, you could almost hear the difference in the sound, even though it's done in nanoseconds. You could still distinguish that it seemed like this one over here is like pop pow over, but when you get to his left side where the person's further away, it's pop pow, little, just a fraction longer. And what that was the fact that it showed that the bullet was coming from the right. It wasn't coming from his front, and it wasn't coming from the left. It was coming from his right side in. And that's the one evidence that I could do using that sound analysis there to determine that the bullet was fired from the right side. Was it a drone? Was it a gun? Was it a sniper? I don't really know the answer to that. The Israelis also have a robotic gun that is placed on a lot of their towers. I lived in Israel. I know what it's like. I've got friends that were in Mossad. I know a lot about some of the technology that they use and things of that nature there. But by the way, there's several reasons too, Colin, that Charlie was targeted during the daytime. And one of the things that people don't know about is that Charlie was targeted in the daytime to send a message. So kind of pick
absolutely.
up for me, so I'm going to find some things on this.
And if you guys go back and look at the last, I did a live stream a couple weeks back with Gideon, a very intelligent guy. He's an engineer, and he actually did a sound analysis using all of the cameras from that day, put them all together. And he didn't use the crack bang. Matter of fact, he actually proved where the crack bang method is not accurate unless you know the exact speed of the projectile or whatever.
That in frames per second, you've got to know that. You've got to know what, is the camera shooting in 48 megahertz of sound, or is it 44.100? Oh, I think is it nanohertz? I forget the words they use for that, but that's exact. I learned that from Gideon when you interviewed him, and so I began, when I started doing some of these sound analysis as well, I realized I was having to input every single, not only the camera that you input that information in, but if you're going to put that sound or that signature into your own recording, now you've got to it's got to be able to convert what you did it in as well. So you've got to know every single, the bit rate, the sound wave hertz that the camera recorded in, feet per second, And then, as Gideon said in your interview, Colin, he said, you got to remember there's right and left side of the speaker sensors in the phone. Which side were they facing? Which one was getting hit first? Things like that.
But that's my point, is he actually did an echolocation analysis using all the sound profiles of that day. And that is mapping them, like Steve just said, with each phone has a left and a right microphone. And it picks up, it has two microphones. So you can pick up, you're going to pick up, depending on where the phone is, the shot will pick up on one microphone milliseconds or nanoseconds, whatever you want to call it, before it hits the other microphone. So unless it's facing dead on. So he was able to determine by doing that sound analysis that the shot came from the right side, exactly where we're talking about.
That's exactly right. And, some of the things that you want to think about too, Charlie, of course, most of his events, I think, are done in the daytime hours anyway. But I do believe that there's a couple of reasons why this location was chosen. Now, I'm going to give Colin again, and I know I've shared this on your channel before, but just for people for reminders, working with the CIA on projects that people lost their lives in the early stages, I never knew anything until after the fact. Later, I became part of the planning operations. So I began to realize how much in advance these things were planned. They're never planned, a day or two or something like that. They're planned way in advance. And we're talking about months, sometimes up to a year. But even in a case like this, there are reasons why they would choose the university. One, when you're dealing with assassins, it's not the guy that does the actual shot, or whether it's done remotely or whatever the case may be. There are a number of individuals that would be working with intelligence agencies that will begin to look at the different locations that Charlie would have been speaking at. I already believe, and I know that I think Gary even kind of hit the issue about Charlie Kirk was a diehard Zionist until the day he died. I don't doubt, and I know from what I've seen of Charlie thus far, Charlie still loved Israel. I don't say that Charlie didn't love Israel, and I want to make that clear with Gary, with Paramount, that I didn't say that he didn't love Israel. Sure he did.
He changed his views. What he was doing was in the process of changing his views. And Candace showed all those text messages to prove it.
Yes. So the proof is there. Not only that, the videos he did, the interviews, the fact that he was bringing Tucker on at TPUSA conventions, the text that Candace shows out there. Candace Owens is showing the text messages where he's losing support, his fear for his life, etc., things like that. He began to question that right-wing Israeli narrative. Not that he was against Israel. He didn't do like me and my wife. We had woke up enough to where it was just flat out, we knew that there was an agenda going on to bring about a new world order that would put Israel at the head of all of that. Charlie wasn't to that point by no means, but he did cause problems because Israel will not tolerate anyone that they are supporting that is giving a narrative for pro-Israel to suddenly change on that. You don't do it.
Especially someone with the biggest platform as Charlie had and the influence he had with the young people, which is something that Israel's had a huge problem with lately, with losing a lot of the young support. And another reason that that about he was changing his views is because Candace also revealed that Charlie had a Catholic funeral and is buried in a Catholic cemetery.
And I don't think Charlie's no more Catholic than I am, but I mean, I'm not picking on the Catholic Church or nothing. I mean, People can believe whatever they want to believe. If you're a Christian, I support you. But I will say this, though. Whether it's Mossad and possibly CIA involvement, because it's going to take more than one agency to be involved. I know when I talked to Dave Hodges last night, we went into that. And he said, Steve, you know as well as I do, they work together. You know on both sides, people in Mossad and CIA as well. And I said, yes, that's true. And, but what they did is they chose that location for several reasons. One, Utah is an open carry state. People can carry firearms, and people easily, especially concealed, will carry things into places maybe they're not supposed to, but they would anyway because it is an open carry state. Secondly, it's more remote. It's also, the university is in a place to where the building was set up in an area where you had what created an echo chamber, making it nearly impossible to determine the trajectory of the shot. And Gary, are you aware of skull to brain technology that is used? Dr. I'll forget I'll think of his name in a minute, but one very well-known doctor that worked with DARPA that helped develop the technology, clearly has said they have used this type technology on American citizens to get them to do things like what maybe even if, and I don't think the evidence is there to support that Tyler was there, but let's say he was. Let's say he was there. Could it be voice to skull technology that was used on him? And don't pretend like it can't be done. Yes, it can, very much can, and they do it.
Even Dr. if he was on the
Robert Duncan is who I was thinking of, Colin.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think Tyler was involved in some way. I don't think he was the shooter. However, even if he was, say he was involved and say he was the shooter on that roof, it still doesn't change a damn thing, because we believe, one, that they were radicalized using not only Discord, but also, like you said, the skull to brain technology. And also, this is a bigger conspiracy where he was not working alone.
Palantir, for example, they use their technology to track social media, to watch how right-wing radicals think. I know that Dr. Duncan talks a lot about how that he had to be very careful, and he was still under, he couldn't bring out everything because of his contracts that he had with the government. Just like with me, you have to be 30 years out before you can really speak about things. I've been out for over 35 years now. And but the point is, though, is that Palantir, for example, monitors all these people. They know Israelis have that technology as well. They work with Palantir, in fact, works for Israelis as well. They track individuals. They find people that have certain grudges, vendettas, maybe they hated Charlie, and they'll target several of those individuals. Put that thought, begin to use that skull to brain technology on them, or V2K as it's called, voice of God technology, another name that it's known by. In fact, when I began to first talk about this, Colin, I was called from Washington, told you need to keep that one down because they will kill you for that. Well, Dr. Duncan found that out, and I can't say he found out the hard way. He probably knew that he was at risk, but he died at 58 years old, and he shouldn't have died of natural causes, I can tell you that. So my point is, though, they can groom these people, have thoughts in their head. They think they're going there to do something, and he could have even carried a weapon. I don't say that he didn't carry one, but I know too many cases where government cases that I'm privily aware of, where one person that was blamed for the shot was never the person that took the shot. But they would be set up, they'd be used as a patsy, and they'll be serving time in prison. And I know all about George Wallace assassination as well, very intimately. So he wasn't killed, but he was shot, was crippled up, but it wasn't the guy they said that did it. So you got to think about these things. Now, looking at this case here, they chose the area because it would create an echo chamber. Look, Brilliant minds were thinking this out, Colin. Brilliant minds. They knew that. Get enough people in there, get it all packed out in a tight area. Easy way to just exit with everybody else if it is a person in there. Drones were seen all over the place. And of course, Gary said, oh, just little bitty drones. There's nothing in there. Well, you just showed the one there. I want to show you another one then, just like what you did there. I'll show you some Israeli drones here that are used in Gaza. And we've got doctors that have volunteered that find bullet holes in kids' heads and necks and everything else.
And another thing is Siren 136 pointed out here as well. Utah is CIA country. Utah specifically targets CIA because of the Mormons. They target the Mormons in particular because they have to do 2 years overseas missionary work as part of their religion or whatever. So that makes them, and most of the time they're forced to learn a second language, and that makes them perfect, ideal candidates for the CIA. So the CIA targets them. Almost every one of those campuses in Utah have actual CIA offices, CIA programs running on campus. UVU is not special. There's one on campus, the CAI, Center for Anticipatory Intelligence, which is a government think tank, a CAI think tank, which is right there on UVU. So, and it's 100% possible, and that's why they chose that location.
Exactly. And if you want to pop that one up there real quick, Colin. And by the way,
yep.
Small platforms that are able to follow, whether it be an infrared designator or a white laser designator, you got the FPV kamikaze disposable attack drones. You've got mini loitering munitions. You got micro ISR recon UAS drones. You have the FPV racer type kamikaze drones. You've got Russia's Zala Lancet family. Poland has a War Mate. You got the FLIR Black Hornet family of drones that have been used in both Ukraine and Gaza. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on, the different drones that you have out there. Now, this is what they call a quadcopter. It's a little bit bigger, but it's because it's dropping explosives and stuff inside of Israel. So it does have a little bit larger size, not as small as some of you've got, let's see here.
Biggest concern is the way
on the right one in here. There's a drone in this video here.
Okay. Can you make that full screen for him?
Yeah.
Make it easier to see. There we go.
Find the right spot in here. They've got drones that fly in that let's see, wait a minute. Let me back up. That's one of the doctors there. That's clearly a deliberate act. I believe he's a doctor. I may be wrong.
And it was
no, he's an actor. Sorry about that.
Persistent targeting of civilians day after day.
I have a good friend who is
as far as we know, they are equipped with high-tech surveillance technology as well as very precise targeting technology where Israeli soldiers can remotely assassinate targets. Some of them carry grenades, other times they can carry rifles or other machine guns. There is a huge variety of quadcopters that are being deployed in Gaza. Right now it's a very booming market in Israel and a very competitive market. So each startup is trying to showcase and market its own products as field tested in Gaza. That's why you have a variety of dozens of different quadcopters.
Look how small these things are here. These are infrared drones. And, you know,
quadcopters on their own are not illegal. The way they are being used is illegal. Leaving this huge level of automation and artificial intelligence to determine the life or death of an individual is illegal. The indiscriminate firing is an atrocity. It can amount to a crime against humanity, of extermination and murder. So in the way that
But that's only just, we can drop that one off there. The racer style kamikaze drones, there are so many different small drones, and even people that have learned to convert those drones into deadly weapons. It's insane. It's insane with what they can do now. And the different countries too. And of course, like he said too, people are testing their weapons there because a lot of militaries like to say, oh, we have field tested this in Gaza or the West Bank, whatever the case may be. That's something that the Israelis have always done. They've been very big in those areas there by being able to say that their drones are tested like that. You got one called the Switchblade 300. That's another drone that's got some pretty crazy technology. And that's still a little bit bigger drone. But these small little drones are just becoming more and more well-known, well-recognized, that they've got these different capabilities unlike anything you could ever imagine. And here's a crazy thing, Colin. That's not even technology that we don't, that's not even counting the technology that is kept from public eye where you can't see anything about it. It's just sad. It's sad that people don't realize just how serious that is. So.
I completely agree with you. And there were many, many drones that were at UVU that day. So, it blows my mind that he would just be completely dismissive with the fact that it could be a drone, either infrared laser with a drone or a sniper drone. But for him to just completely dismiss that really blows my mind, considering, all the drones that we have video of and have proven were on campus that day. They were actually there.
Yeah, exactly.
For one of my drone videos now.
Well, another thing that's kind of crazy too in this, Colin, is that you've got, there's counterintelligence, information control. They want to silence and intimidate individuals and believe the threatened classified programs or state narratives. You've got the idea of false flag narratives that are going around to create an event that can later be spun to justify, legislation or censorship that they want to bring out on people. You've got denial and plausibility that you can look at using dual use of tech camera gear and surveying drones, which allows full deniability of equipment that looks commercial and not military, when yet, in fact, it can be easily equipped with military capabilities. So there's so many different reasons why this could have happened in this way. And again, it doesn't mean that it's not still done by a sniper on the ground.
It could be, or on the roof. It's still a possibility. Like we said, the BA building, the roof of the BA building. I haven't completely ruled that out yet. I just know that we definitely had a spotter at the van there with a laser, and he was shot from the right. That's all we know for sure. I'm only speculating about it being a drone, but it's definitely possible. We have the video I have up right now. This is a drone that we have that was right over there on that right side, right at that area where the shot would have come from, right between the BA building and where where Range Day Bro thought the bush sniper in the ghillie suit would be. There was a drone right there overhead, right as the shot took place. This is actually, I'll let you hear the shot, but this is right as the shot took place.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh my God! Go, run! Oh.
See, after the shot.
Yes, and something that's interesting too to consider on this as well, Colin, is just this is for the sake of people that might say, well, you're not going to have a designator on the ground and everything, but whether it's using the infrared, which is between 800 and 850 nanometers, which is it's invisible to most people with their naked eye to be able to see that. But the white laser And that was something I didn't even think about at the time because it's not commonly known about. It is, you can't take just a white light like an LED or anything and make a laser out of it. They have to mix it with a little bit of red and green, but it's done so faintly that it appears as a white laser. And there is a thing you've seen on a bag that kind of made me think of that as well. But it was what made me really look at that was in that van that day where there was dual lights on there, which, by the way, anytime a laser hits a window, because of the double layered glass that is in there, it will create a two light. It appear like double light instead of a single light, but it is a single light. And when I saw that from the van, when you shared that with me, you might want to put that up on the screen because I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. That particular light, it was very difficult to get a spectrum analysis on it. You did get me a better quality resolution on it. And from what I could see, it was more like a white laser because it did have a faint green and light red detected in that lighting there, which is right. But I was able to determine it ran at about a 650 nanometer range. And that clearly can be visible, not as easily as a red dot laser or green dot laser, things like that snipers were used to use, but as something that a person that would use it, knowing they have it, they would be able to faintly see it when it touches the target. But then all you need then, and this can be done on a drone, is spectral tracking. And Gary, I'm sure he knows about that. There's many seekers of systems that would have high-speed cameras that can lock onto a reflector, allowing any aerial device with compatible optics to center the beam or spot without the public noticing it. Okay, and so this is one of the things that I'm looking at because these detectors and the cameras and stuff are made, or even there's even lasers that are designed, infrared lasers that can actually track another laser by the wavelength itself. But I'm just talking about spectral tracking in that case there. So, there's so much you can do by doing it this way. So it would make it, I guess what I'm really trying to say in this case here, Colin, it makes it nearly impossible for the public to ever really know the way Charlie was actually shot. Much easier for them to believe the shot came from here or there. And by the way, if you ever notice, no one really looks all in the one direction when the shot goes off. Again, what is that? That is intelligence agencies looking at Charlie's schedule long in advance and picking a location that they knew that would cause an echo chamber in such a way to where it would be nearly impossible to identify the direction in which the shot come from by most people. And that was brilliant on their side.
I got it pulled up now. My computer froze for a minute. I apologize for that.
Yeah,
I do have that van now.
Yeah, and keep in mind what Colin has on the screen for you here. We don't have the best quality here because of what we're working with here, but that's in the very back. There you go. That's a good one right there, Colin. And what is it? What is it? I mean, somebody might say, well, it's a light on the door on the other side. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that 100% I could say that's an infrared laser or even a white laser. On the other one, it was more obvious because it has to hit the camera or the phone directly in order for it to reflect. Other cameras that were honed in on the very source of the laser that was back behind the cameraman did not pick it up. There was no light source whatsoever in those phones. Why? Because the laser has to hit their lens. Frank's phone, his own phone itself or the camera on his phone could reflect it if it hit his phone, and that's what it did. Now, I am looking at one other thing, Colin, that I have not had a chance to fully analyze yet, and that is those were two brothers that were filming that day. And those two brothers that were filming both had a reflection off of Frank's phone of what appears to be an infrared or a white laser that struck his phone.
Yeah, I just pointed that. I just put the picture up right there.
Right? Now, the strange thing is, though, the one on this particular one, I think, which was the one we got from Jason, it captures the individual in behind the cameraman, behind Frank. But the brother that was filming right beside him, it goes over the shoulder of the guy that's behind, that's actually to the direct right of Charlie. It's over the top of his shoulder, and I can't determine the origin of that one. So my question is, would that support the possibility that the designated laser was captured by the other phone, and the tracking, we'll say I'll call it, for simple terminology, we'll call it tracking laser, picked up on the other end? I don't know. I really don't know. It could be a just different angle, and the laser still hit his phone. He captured it with his camera, but it's just the way his camera is facing, or the way his phone captures it, picks it up from a different angle. That may be the case. I'm not really sure on that, but I still want to look into it to see if there's something there that I've missed on that.
And then, not to mention the 3 shots I found coming from that right side too, which how can Paramount deny that as well? Let me turn the sound off. We don't need the sound. But this is matter of fact,
and of course, if I would say this here on this particular image here, if that truly is a bullet going across the screen captured, and I believe that it could be. If it was, then I would say the shot did not come from a drone. That would be my theory in that case there. I would have to believe more so that would have been from the van area or something like that.
And that's the other thing that we are not sure about, because the trunk did go up 4 seconds before the shot and then went immediately down afterwards. It's possible that the weapon could have been in that van and on a remote trigger as well.
Right. And if it was a drone, and what we're looking at here, then could it be a flying bug that just happened to fall in that same trajectory line? Theoretically, yes, anything's possible. There were a lot of bugs there that day, but typically when you see the bugs, you get a consistent pattern of their movement. So I've kind of watched that, and I realize there's a real possibility. I have on these images here, it is possible for a camera to have happened, especially with good lighting, to have captured a moving bullet at that very right moment.
And it would look just like this, as Steve's probably about to point out.
Right. It would look like a tic-tac type of shape, because it would be a blurred image as it's traveling, is what you would see there. And not, I know some people say 50 foot. No, it wouldn't be 50 foot, but it would have more of a tic-tac look to it, not just a round cylinder of a slug flying through the air. So kind of like when you're taking pictures up in space and the stars are all moving and you think you got the camera still, and you come down and you thought you was looking at one single dot and you got a long dot. If you've really got stable, but I've had it on tripods and take pictures up in space and it'd be squiggly all over the place on the screen. You don't even realize that there's a vibration in your camera movement. So, and everything's moving up there. So try to take a picture of a UFO one day. That's not an easy task either. So anyway.
And the other thing I would want to make about Paramount, because Paramount also says that 100% for sure he's positive that either Tyler Robinson or the suspect has that Mauser down his pants, the leg of his pants.
That's absurd.
that's absurd because his pants were skinny jeans. They were super tight. If there was a weapon down there, you would be able to see the outline of it, for one. And secondly, when he's in the stairwell, you can see, I mean, you could see him lifting his knee bends too much for there to be a rifle in there.
Yeah. And the Navy SEAL, what was the guy's name, that the two Navy SEALs that we talked about before, Colin?
One of them I think is a Green Beret, Valhalla VFT.
Okay.
And then there's another Navy SEAL, which I believe is Zeb Boykin.
Okay. The one point that I remember when they were doing a video together, or maybe it wasn't with Zeb Boykin, but it was a different Navy SEAL that he had on there with him, or whatever branch they were in. The one thing that they pointed out in their video that I agreed with 100%, when they claimed the rifle was shoved down his pants, when he jumps off the roof, his knees bend with the fall. They bend, right? Well, if that were the case, his leg ain't going to bend. That gun didn't bend. So you can't tell me the gun is in his pants legs. That's totally absurd to even say that. And second, the other point they point out, because they knew the exact size and dimensions of the rifle that the FBI said he had, said even if he had it broke down, they showed the picture of the backpack, the type of the backpack it was, said the barrel would be sticking out at least a half a foot or so, sticking out of the backpack, because you couldn't have fit it in the backpack. So this is the thing that I like to try to do as well, because there have been other scenarios that I've considered and thought maybe was plausible.
Me too.
It's just not, they've not worked out. And when they don't work out, I say, look, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's a hard thing maybe for Gary, is because if he is working with federal agencies, he knows he can't go against that narrative. Because, granted, do they have more at their disposal than I do? Sure they do. But do I know that governments also do things intentionally? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Very much they do. Whatever the narrative is they want to bring out, that's the way they're going to do it. Kind of like what Trump did recently, that someone was doing a video on and everything, that he helped shut down some groups over in Gaza that were nonprofit organizations that were trying to bring out the crimes that were done against humanity. And he shut them all down, and YouTube went in there and scrubbed 700 videos. All of it evidence of crimes against humanity. If you don't want the narrative out there, they know how to clean it up. They know how to scrub it. They know how to silence you. I'll say this. I'll say it this way, but I know it personally. I know teachers that have told me they can't dare say a word about Israel or the Charlie Kirk assassination and having anything to do with Israel, or they would be fired. There is no freedom of speech in this country. It's over. And now they're labeling Tucker Carlson, and I'm sure they're doing Candace the same way, and Megyn Kelly, all of them anti-Semites, right?
Me too.
They calling you an anti-Semite now, Colin?
Oh, all the time. And I'm far from it. I'm probably more middle of the road like Charlie was. I'm not. I'm a nationalist. I have a problem with them interfering in our elections and our politics. I do not like what's going over in Gaza, but I'm not against all Jews. I'm not even against Israel. I have a problem with Benjamin Netanyahu's regime. That man is evil.
There you go. And that's the same for me. It's, against the Jewish people, no. I come from a Jewish family. There's a lot of friends of mine that are Jewish and everything that I don't believe they would be one moment for any of these things. And, but the thing is, it's normally the Jewish people that are willing to tell the truth about it. It is, in fact, I'm doing an interview with an Israeli that he got put in prison in Israel for 4 days, solitary confinement. He's a civics teacher in Tel Aviv. They put him in prison because all he did was trying to bring to Israelis on his Facebook page, telling them about how that the people that are dying there in Gaza are real people. They weren't Hamas. They weren't soldiers. They didn't participate over on October the 7th, and we could just go on and on and on. But the point is, it's like Colin said, even in our country here, America needs to be first. Okay, we have armed Israel and funded them to so many billions. I like, what is it, the Congresswoman of Georgia. She is an amazing lady there, and she's trying to push for no funding for no more bombs. But AIPAC owns this nation. It's just what it really comes down to. They own it.
And to all the people calling us anti-Semites and everything, I just want to play something. Barron said something good tonight, which I agree with. And I want to go ahead and just play that real quick because I think it's relevant here.
Candace Owens or anyone else that's covering this, Project Constitution, Ryan Matta, Base Sam Parker, me, Ian, Carol. The only thing any of these people are doing is following up on a text thread that Andrew Colvett thought was relevant. That's it. To me, that's it. That is the truth. That's the way I see this investigation taking place. Andrew Colvett thought that text message was relevant. Text thread was relevant to his death, to Charlie Kirk's death. So do I. So do I.
Exactly. It is relevant.
Yep.
It's relevant.
In that text message, he talked specifically about being done with Israel. He talked about they were morally blackmailing him and he wasn't going to have it anymore. And that is why I believe they killed him. And we didn't go into this. I know I didn't go into this looking for evidence against Israel. No, I went in this believing the FBI's narrative, and I was looking for more information about that to support it. And as I dug deeper and deeper and deeper, I just kept finding more inconsistencies, more that the FBI was lying about, and more pieces of evidence that continue to point to Israel, whether it be the Google Trends data, whether it be the 12 Israeli cell phones that were on site that day, whether it be the text messages about Charlie saying that he was done with Israel, whether it be Charlie saying that he was afraid they were going to kill him beforehand, whether it be the there was something else too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a lot of evidence that points towards Israel. And like I said, it's not something that I went in search of. That just, as I follow the evidence, that is where it leads.
Exactly. So, Colin, I think we've said enough, and I will say this too. This is not to slander Gary by no means. I'm not trying to do that. And I want to make that clear. I think the man's a brilliant man. I really do. But we wanted to defend our point on this issue here because I think that, and maybe it is that Gary just is not, considering some of the facts that we're trying to bring out. Maybe we're not as eloquent as what he is to bring these facts out. He is a brilliant man, and he's got a lot of knowledge. He does. He's got a lot of wartime experience as well. I don't take that from him.
And I agree with you, and I respect him. And he has brought out a lot of good pieces of evidence for the case that help us. He went there in person. He did some interviews. He got us some good video of the campus there. He did a drone. He got a drone mapping above and is putting together a 3D model that he says he's going to share with all of us. I don't know if he's still going to share it with me now, but either way, he's putting a 3D model for people. So I mean, I credit him for all that. He's doing great work, and by no means am I attacking him on that. I have a problem when he comes, particularly at our work, saying that it's impossible, and specifically calling me a grifter and stuff. And I have a problem with that, because that's not the case at all.
Nope, not at all. So anyway, Colin, thank you for having me on tonight. And listen, those of you on Israeli News Live that are listening, you definitely want to follow Colin here, Project Constitution, over on X. Easy to find. All you got to do is put in that Project Constitution. You'll see that red logo up there, and that's the guy. I share a lot of his work on our X channel as well, Israeli News Live. Actually, I use my pen name on our X, Stephen Denoon, Denoon. And but if you go there, you can find him that way, because you'll see I share his work over there. And if you guys happen to know Candace Owens or anything like that, love to be able to talk to her, especially in light of the things that our family has gone through, very similar, that cost the life of my father-in-law. I'd like to share some things with her to see if she doesn't see some similarities. There may be things that Candace knows that she's not ever spoken about publicly, that we could share privately as well, that might be something that would make her say, oh, wow, gosh, I didn't think about that. Yes, I know this, or I know that. And it doesn't have to be something that's done on video or anything like that. It can just simply be off the record, just talking about things that we both have experienced. But especially when it comes to Israel's involvement, we know all too well that Israel will silence dissenters. So thank you for listening.
Absolutely. And I also want to say, everybody on my channel, make sure you go follow Steve. Like I said, he's at Stephen Denoon on X, and at Israeli News Live on YouTube. Great guy. Go follow him. He's been at it for a long time. He's got a great channel. You're doing it. You just said you're doing an interview coming up. You want to go ahead and plug that, or?
Let me. The thing is, I had to look at the guy's name again. Me and my wife are doing an interview with this gentleman over out of Tel Aviv, and let me pull him up real quick so I can remember his name. I happened to run across him on X. In fact, he's not on X, but when I found him, somebody had posted this guy's video up on X, and that's what caught my attention. I got to switch over my account though, so I can get it to the right spot here. And we invited him on an interview, and he accepted that invitation. And his name is Mir Bruchin. That's if you. I don't know if we're. Let's see. We may be doing it live actually too. If we're doing it live, let me calculate this real quick in Eastern time, because he's in Israeli time there. So let me see here. All right, that would be at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Let's see, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on now. Let me get it right here, because I'm sorry. Eastern. Oh, gosh. I got to know. Let's see. We already had daylight, because see, Israel does their daylight saving times different than what we do. So let's see.
Sorry for putting you in the spot.
That's not quite all right. Quite all right. I think it's, I would say this, 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe, is going to be the right time there. But I've also got on here 3 p.m. Eastern daylight time, but because I know it's normally a 7-hour difference there. But I do, yes, 2 p.m. Eastern time right now is when it is. So yeah, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live on Israeli News Live YouTube, and on we'll be live on X here on our X channel at Stephen Denoon as well. with, again, the guy's name is Mir Bruchin. If you look him up, Meir is how you spell his first name, Baruchin. He is a teacher in Tel Aviv, and he has been. And by the way, he's not anti-Israel. He loves his country, but he believes in equality and humanity. And he says until we end the sufferings that we have put the Palestinians under, he said we're never going to have genuine peace in our homeland. So that's why he is speaking out. So just keep that in mind. It's another Israeli voice. My wife has interviewed a lot of Israelis over the years, very well-known Israelis that speak about things like this. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate that, Colin, for mentioning that, and hopefully you guys will come join us tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely should. I'm going to mention one more thing too. I'm working right now to interview this guy on X that I've been working with here. He broke this Eric Rosenwald at Rosenwald_Eric. Everybody should go follow him on X. But I am working to interview him tomorrow at some time. If Steve's available, I would love for him to join me as well.
What time are you doing that tomorrow, Colin?
I'm not sure yet. We're going to do it sometime tomorrow. He hadn't got back to me yet on the time, but at some point tomorrow we do plan on doing it.
I got you. If it's later in the evening, I can probably jump on. Morning time up until about the time I go on with Mir, I know I wouldn't be able to join then because of the constraints I'd be dealing with.
Okay. Yeah, well, most likely it'll be either sometime in the late afternoon, evening, or whatever. I'll let you know for sure. But yeah, you're more than welcome to join. I'd like you to join if you're available.
Absolutely, thank you.
But he actually released this where he found that on September 10th, that's a typo, by the way. It's not September 15th. On September 10th, there was a private military contractor, Mark Incorporated. They had a spy plane, a Piper spy plane, up in the air over Utah Valley before the event, and they had LiDAR and high resolution cameras, and they were doing surveillance and mapping, and they made, I believe, 4 separate passes. They made 4 passes that day over UVU between 11:01 p.m. and 11:01 a.m. and 11:50 a.m. just before Charlie was shot. Like I said, this camera,
Imagine that, right?
Exactly. And this camera is super high tech. It has everything. It has LiDAR. It has Vexicai large format digital, hyperspectral infrared scanners.
Do you know what you're talking about right there, Colin? I did not even bring that one up because I did not consider that as a plausible scenario. I didn't know that the plane was equipped with that, but I actually had an article up on my screen that talks about that particular type of technology and how that it will follow a spotter infrared or white laser technology on the ground to give it a designated spot and then follow that light frequency and hit the target.
Very interesting. See, that definitely piqued my attention when I saw infrared scanners on that as well.
Yes, very interesting.
But anyway, so like I said, and then somebody on TikTok who we believe the user name on TikTok is @UniverseHop00. but they've never posted any content before. They're a brand new account. They haven't posted anything before or since. That's the only thing they've posted. So we can only assume that this is one of the contractors blowing the whistle and, dropping this information for people. But they actually released the actual scans. I'll show you real quick here. They released the actual scans of the passes that they made. Where's it at? There's the passes. Each one of the passes they took off from Provo Airport and landed at Provo Airport. But they made 4 separate passes, all back to back in a row here over UVU that day. And the plane, we have an actual picture of the plane here, right there. It's a Piper. And then they there's all the equipment that they say on their website that they have on board, like a camera, DMC camera, LED air, media camera, Midas computer, Midas camera, LED air Midas camera computer, hyperspectral camera, Optec Titan laser, Optec 3100 LiDAR, and then they actually have images from the plane that they took as they went by of UVU right before Charlie Kirk was killed. So you can see the tent down there. You can see all the people. You could see the cars underneath of there, Charlie's car and everybody. And this was after he arrived because Charlie's car is in line there as well, as you can see. But there's a ton of photos here. Like I said, they made 4 passes. And you can see all these photos here. You can see I have them posted on my X. But they took pictures of the neighborhood, supposedly where Tyler Robinson was walking. They took pictures over top of the tunnel, which is very weird. They specifically went over and took pictures over top of the tunnel that they said that Tyler or whoever went through to get to, out of that neighborhood to get to the campus. See, there's the neighborhood.
In one particular job I was doing, I actually, when I was doing, let me just see if I can pull it up. It's way back. Remember when we had the one person, I think it was the Navy SEAL guys, they were talking about this bullet that was down between the legs of Charlie. And they were suggesting that was actually a bullet. This is Navy SEAL guys saying this, right? They said, that looks like a bullet, right? I took and I followed the trajectory of that to his neck. When I did, I dismissed it because I thought to myself, well, the guy would have had to have shot him from up in the sky. And would have had to have entered somewhere on the top of his head and came down out his neck. But what if he was shot like that, right? Or what if that really is a bullet or something, right? I mean, I've got it. I actually have where I show the trajectory. I did a trajectory on it. And I'm looking to see if I can find that real quick because that's just kind of odd.
Yeah, no problem.
While
you're looking, I'll continue going through these pictures here.
Go ahead.
But this right here's a nice clear shot. This is when they made the closest pass, where you can actually see all the people over the thing here. And where's that one? Let me go back to that one I had. The one of the neighborhood here, there was one, this one right here. This is actually, I don't know if it's this house or this house, but the video that was released of allegedly Tyler Robinson's Charger going down this street and then somebody getting out and walking up this street to go meet another car. It was right here on this street. You even see there's pictures of the low-C roof. Let me see if I can find that. And you can actually see what looks like I don't know if it is their alleged shooter or not, but there actually is somebody at the roof access. Right, yeah, here it is. This is the low-C building, and they claim that the person took the shot. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but right on that corner. Ooh, let me go back. I didn't mean to hit play. But they claim they took the shot right on the corner of the low-C building, which is, if you can't see my mouth, it's all the way on the right side. It's that building all the way on the right next to the parking lot. That parking lot, and that's where Tyler jumped off the roof at. Or somebody jumped off the roof that they allege to be Tyler. But if you look right there at the roof access, you see a black dot. There's somebody right there on the catwalk there, right at that roof access. And this is at 11:35 a.m., about 45 minutes before Charlie was shot. So there very well could, I mean, we know, I mean, they showed pictures, so somebody definitely was on that roof. I don't think it was Tyler, but whoever it was, it looks like there's somebody in black on that roof right there getting ready. This is like right before, I guess, they jump over the roof, right at 11:35. But yeah, so I definitely suggest you guys go check this out. I have it on my X. It's pinned to the top of my X. You guys can go find it and pull all these pictures for yourself. I have it in a slideshow, so you could just download the slideshow and then, you know, separate the images directly if you want. But I just thought that was interesting. And like I said, I'm going to have the guy that found this, I'm going to have him on the show tomorrow at some time, probably in the afternoon. And Steve may join me. So make sure you keep an eye out for that.
I'll be watching too. I'll show you what I was showing. And what's interesting, when I did this one here, the bullet that you found the first time is what I actually was able to line it up with. That particular spot there, right there, the bullet you had seen was right there on top of the red line. Frank's phone, yep. The circle, and my if it was like that, the thought was and if that was a bullet there between his knees, is what I did is I put an arrow on that. Now keep in mind it could be a little bit off on that, but that was the type of trajectory that it would have to go. Now I don't know, because of not being able to know if the building, if it would have cleared the building, could have been done from something that far out like that. That was a theory I was considering at the time, but I have no idea. Just a theory.
And also, I don't have the video handy, but I remember one video that I found. You actually see a projectile between Charlie's legs, but it looks like a projectile.
It's there. It's just the red arrow is literally covering it up right now, because I was using the one that was between his legs, and what I did is you wouldn't see it there because the bullet was in the air behind it. But what I did is I was able to mark where because it's in the frame afterwards, or a couple of frames afterwards, And so what I did is where the Navy guys found it, I was able to mark where it was, and then I traced back and followed that along with the neck wound. And it actually did follow what seems to be a possible trajectory. So I didn't rule it out. I just I made the mark. And this has been, I did this on October the 20th is when I did it, 2025. This is what the date is on the top here when I made that image there. So it just kind of shows you, we look, Colin's the same way, looks at all kinds of different ideas and things, but we don't know for sure. We just simply try to give you what we think is right, and and try to, like you said, follow the evidence, follow what's out there.
Because that was another one of Paramount's points, is that we don't steely against ourselves or whatever, or steel man against ourselves, and that's a complete lie as well, because we have debunked many of our own theories as we have gone. As we get new evidence, as new things come to light, we have adjusted our theory. We have completely discarded some theories. So, I mean, just goes to show you, we are, if you want people that are following the actual evidence, that's what we are doing. We don't care whether we're right or wrong. We don't care whether our theory is the right one or not. We're just following the evidence and reporting what we have. That's it.
Exactly. It's no big I's and little U's. We're just simply, like you said, we're just trying to figure out what's what. And, and then maybe we'll eventually be able to figure something out on this. But yeah, at this point right now, we just don't know for sure what's what yet. So
I want to make one more. Yep. I want to make one more point before we get off. I just want to congratulate Candace Owens for her podcast becoming the #1 podcast in the world.
Yes.
So,
yes. Not
congratulations.
That's right. Congratulations, Candace. And she's doing an amazing job and really trying to get the truth out there on this subject. So anyway, thank you, Colin, for having me. Yes, she has.
In spite of all and this is in spite of all the haters, in spite of all the trolls that have been trying to take her down. And the reason is, like I was, saying earlier, the reason is because she's telling the truth. She's not bought by anybody. She's not funded by special interest. She is just speaking the truth, what she has in her gut, and reporting the facts as she sees them. She's not pulled in one direction or another. She's not pulled by politics. She doesn't care. It is what it is. Wherever things fall, they fall. She's not worried about the consequences.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, Candace, we appreciate you tremendously.
Very much so. She's been a great help with this investigation.
Yeah, and she's got more vested in it than anybody does. So,
absolutely.
So, all right, Colin, you have a blessed night, and thank you guys for listening.
Very good. Have a good night, everybody. God bless.
God bless.